Good morning, everyone. Let us start with a quick recap of your chapter number 3, what we have done so far. So, the very first topic of your chapter 1 was your TCP/IP protocol suite. So, as we all know, that when I talk about IoT, it is Internet of Things, and the most common or most important element in IoT is your internet. So, internet is something that is your network that connects your computers all over the world, and it works on some agreed set of protocols. So, protocols are set of rules and regulations which are to be followed by every device which needs to communicate over the network. So, the most common protocols which is used is IP protocol suite, which has two parts, that is TCP/IP protocol suite and UDP/IP protocol suite. So in the diagram you can see here that the protocol suite is divided into three layers, that is OSI layer, TCP/IP protocol layer and TCP/IP protocols, which protocols are running over it. So when I talk about OSI layer, it is divided into 7 layers. So OSI is nothing but your open system interconnection. Basically, it is a model that tells that any device wants to communicate over the network has to use OSI as a reference for communication. So all the computer systems which want to communicate with each other has to pass through or has to refer OSI layers. So in OSI layer, the seventh layer is your application layer, wherein all the human interaction takes place, where all the applications can be accessed the network services. Next comes your presentation layer. Whenever you want to present the data, you use presentation layer. It is basically used to present your data in a usable format, and data encryption can also take place here. Third is your session layer. Whenever you want to create a sessions between your devices, or you can say between your different computers, then you can go for the session layer. So it is responsible for creating the connection and sessions, as well as it also helps you to control the ports, your TCP and UDP ports. Next is your transport layer. So whenever you want to transmit the information using the protocols, you could use transport layer. The two protocols which are used here are your TCP and UDP. Next layer is your network layer. So network layer tells you that which network, which path you have to take or your data will take to communicate. So that is on your network layer. Next is your data link layer. It defines the format of the data, what data, how the data is going to be used, what are the different formats which are available, and in which format your data is being to be sent over the network. Last is your physical layer, which is the very first layer, and it transmits your raw data streams over your physical mediums. So this was your all 7 OSI layer. The first 3 layer of OSI, that is application layer, presentation layer, session layer, is mapped with the TCP/IP layer of application layer. The protocols which are run over these layers is your HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, FTP, File Transfer Protocol, Telnet, SMTP, DNS. Next is your transport layer of OSI layer, transport layer of TCP/IP layer, and the protocols which are run over this layer is your TCP and UDP. Next is your network layer of OSI layer, network layer of TCP/IP layer, and the protocols which are run over this layer is your IP protocol, that is Internet Protocol. Last is your data link layer and physical layer, and the TCP/IP layer is your network interface layer. So the protocols which are run here are your Ethernet, token ring, and there are other protocols also available. This is your complete TCP/IP protocol suite. Next, we are moving to the topic, that is Internet Protocol. So when, as we know, the protocol is nothing but the set of agreed rules. So when I talk about Internet Protocol, it is a protocol that is used for routing and addressing the packets of your data so that they can travel across the network and arrive at correct destination. So whenever you are sending a packet, you have to make sure that you are assigning an IP information to each packet. IP information is nothing but just like an address. Whereas we put an address over any packet before we deliver to someone, that same information when we put over the internet, that is termed as your IP information. And this information helps the routers to send the packet to the right place. So now in networking, each and every computer who wants to know each other, they are communicating with the help of IP address. So IP address is a unique identifier which is given to all the computers over the internet. So the packets are directed to the IP addresses, and this information is being attached in your IP information over your each packet. So according to the IP address, the data is sent to the intended computer. Once the packet is arrived, they are handled differently depending on which transport protocol is being used. IP has two transport protocols. One is TCP and another is UDP. So that is your internet protocol. Next comes is your transmission control protocol. So when I talk about transmission control protocol, it is a protocol the way the data is sent in the same way the data is received. So it means what? It provides acknowledgement of each packet which is sent over the network. And before transmitting, it opens a connection with the receiver, and then the connection transmission takes place. Okay. The main important functionality of this protocol is that ensures that all the packets are received and all the packets are sent in the order it is being sent or received. So that is the main functionality of it. Okay. If in case there are any missing packets, that will be sent again. If any receipt is not acknowledged, in that case also the packets will be sent again. So when I talk about TCP, it is designed for reliability but not speed. So whenever you want or whenever you have to an assurity that my packet will be sent and I will receive acknowledgement of it as well, but speed you can compromise, then you can go for TCP. Okay. So because TCP is connection oriented protocol, it makes connection, and after making the connection only all the packets are sent or received. Okay. So when I talk about transmission control protocol, it has some headers. So this is the headers which is there over your screen. The very first is your source port. It is nothing but a 16-bit address that defines the port of sending application. Similarly, destination port, it is 16-bit again, and it identifies the port of receiving application. Next is your sequence number. When I talk about sequence number, it is a 32-bit field. So whenever you are sending any packet over the network, okay, so sequence number is assigned to that packet so that they can understand that so far how many packets have been sent or so far how many packet has been received. Okay. Next is your acknowledgement number. It is a 32-bit field again. So any packet which is sent and it is received by the destination port, then they have to acknowledge that the packet has been received. Always remember, sequence number will be -1 and your acknowledgement number will be +1. Like for example, if I'm sending the packet 2, so once the packet 2 is received, the acknowledgement number will be what? +1. That is send the packet 3. So that is your sequence number and acknowledgement number. Next is your header length. It is a 4-bit field. So basically it is nothing but it contains the length of your TCP header. So it just tells you that from where your actual data begins. Okay. Next is your reserved bits. It is 16-bit field. So these bits are basically not used, but they are reserved in case if you want additional bits, then in that case you can go for this. Okay. Next is your URG bit. URG stands for urgent. So whenever you want to treat or you want to send any data on urgent basis, then you are going to set this bit value 1. As soon as you set this bit value 1, it indicates the receiver that there is some urgent data going to be sent. Next is your ACK. That stands for acknowledgement bit. So whenever you are sending any packet, the acknowledgement also has to be sent. So whenever you set this bit value as 1, it indicates that there is an acknowledgement number and it is valid. Okay. Next is your PSH. That stands for push bit. So whenever you want to push your entire buffer to the receiving application, then you are going to set this bit value as 1. Next is RST. RST stands for reset. So whenever you want to reset your TCP connection, then you're going to use RST and the bit value will be set to 1 for resetting the connection. Next is SYN. SYN stands for synchronization. So this is basically used for synchronizing your sequence number because you're sending your packets one by one. So you need to have synchronized in nature. If they are synchronized, then only you can understand that which packet has been missed or which packet has to be resent in case it has not been received. So that is your sequence number, that is SYN. So whenever you set this bit value to 1, it indicates the receiver that the sequence number contained in your TCP header is the initial sequence number. Next is your FIN. So FIN stands for finish. So whenever you want to terminate the TCP connection, then you are going to use this FIN. But make sure when you are sending this FIN bit set to 1, it indicates the receiver that the sender wants to terminate the connection. Okay. Next is your window size. So window size is a 16-bit field. So it contains the size of the receiving window of the sender. Basically, it is used for flow control. Next is checksum. It is a 16-bit field again, used for your error control. So it verifies that there is an integrity of the data in TCP. If there is any correction to be done, okay. So all that corrections which are to be done, error checking has to be done, is done in the checksum. Next is your urgent pointer. It is a 16-bit field again. It indicates how much data in the current segment from the first byte of data is urgent. So whenever you want to send any urgent data, then you have to add this urgent pointer to the sequence number, and which indicates that there is some urgent data in this sequence number, or you can say in the packet. Okay. So you urgent of URG and urgent pointer, both are almost same only. Okay. Next is your options. Option field is of 0 to 40 bytes. It is used for several purposes. It can be used for padding. It can be used for timestamp. And at times it is also used for window size extension. Last is data, which is optional. If you want to have any more data or data to be added to the TCP headers, then they can use this. That is data, which is optional in nature. Okay. So this is together is your TCP header. So you are expected to draw this diagram when you get the question of TCP, that is Transmission Control Protocol. Next is your UDP. When I talk about UDP, it stands for User Datagram Protocol. It is also the protocol which works over the transport layer, as we have already seen. So when I talk about UDP, it is connectionless protocol. Why it is connectionless protocol? Because it doesn't make any connection at the beginning. Okay, it just simply sends the packet. It doesn't make sure that the receiver will receive or not. It doesn't ask for any acknowledgement. It doesn't have sequence number or acknowledgement in the header as well. You can see that. So it is called as connectionless protocol. Okay. So it is not reliable, but when you want speed but you don't want reliability, then in that case you can go for UDP. Okay. UDP will not really make sure that all the packets are delivered in the order, or it will not make sure that it has been received or not. It will just simply send the packet. So basically when I talk about UDP, it is used for utilizing your stream audios or videos. Okay, wherein you just want your stream audios or videos to be played. You at times you can even compromise with the quality of it. Okay. So when I talk about UDP, it is divided into UDP header and UDP data. UDP header is divided into 4. That is your source port. So the source port is again the same. It is a 16-bit address that identifies your port number of your source. Similarly, destination port, it is a 16-bit address that identifies the port of your destined packet. Next is your length. Length is your 16-bit again, okay, which identifies the header and the data which is stored into your UDP. Last is your checksum. Checksum is again same like your TCP. Okay, it is a 16-bit field. It allows your receiver to cross-check the incoming data for any corrupted bits of the message or any error checking or verification. Okay, so that is your user datagram protocol. It is UDP. So we'll now just take on a quick difference between, as we have already studied. So TCP is your connection-oriented protocol. UDP is a connectionless protocol. TCP keep track of all the lost packets and make sure that all the lost packets are resent, wherein UDP will not keep track of any lost packets. Okay, it just simply sends the packet. You receive or not, that it doesn't take care of. Next, TCP, it adds sequence number to the packets and reorder any packets that has arrived wrong. UDP doesn't take care of packets arrival. TCP is slower because of added functionalities, because it is doing so much thing. It is sending the packet, it is receiving the packet. In that process, it is adding the sequence number, it is acknowledging the sequence number. There are many headers which are working one by one. So it is slower because of the added functionalities. Wherein if I talk about UDP, it is faster because it doesn't have any functionality. It just simply sends the packet and it doesn't do anything in the background. Next, TCP requires more computer resources because operating system have to keep track of ongoing communication and sessions and have to manage them as well. Okay, so TCP has to take care of so many things. It has to always develop session. Session is nothing but a communication. Okay, then it has to manage. It has to check all the packets have been sent in the order as been sent or received. So there's so many things to be done in the background. So TCP requires some more computer resources. In contrast to this, UDP doesn't require any computer resources. Okay, it works with less computer resources because it's just send the packet. Examples of your TCP are your HTTP, HTTPS, FTP. Examples of UDP is your DNS, DHCP, and video streaming. So any type of audio video streaming will come under your UDP. Okay, so that was your TCP versus UDP. Next topic we are coming is to IP addresses. Okay, so IP address is nothing but a unique identifier, or you can say a unique number that is assigned to every device that is connected to a network. So every device that is connected to a network is given a name which uniquely identifies them, and that unique name is nothing but an IP address. Okay, so when I talk about IP address, it is divided into three parts: network part, host part, and subnet mask. Okay, so when I talk about network part and host part, basically these two are used for identification and location addressing. Okay, so host part is nothing but it is something which is assigned to each host. Host is nothing but the network. Sorry, host is nothing but your machine or device. Okay, and the unique number that identifies your every host on the network is nothing but your host part in your IP addresses. Okay, next comes is your network part. So when I talk about network part, it gives the location addressing, that where your network is located and it belongs to which class of the IP addresses. Okay, as we all know that when I talk about IP addresses classes, it is into divided into 5 classes. Okay, so in network part it identifies that to which part your particular network belongs to. Okay, according to the network part which it belongs to, it is assigned a subnet mask. So class A, class B, and class C addresses are assigned with subnet mask value, and if your network part belongs to that class ranges, then that particular subnet mask value is being assigned. Okay, so subnet mask is nothing but when your big networks are divided into small sub networks. Okay, that is called as subnet mask. Okay, like for example, when I talk about class A IP address, it has a range of 0 to 27. Okay, so when it has range to 0 to 127, the subnet mask of it is 8. When I talk about class B IP address, it has range from 128 to 191. So it belongs to subnet mask 16. When I talk about class C IP address, it ranges from 192 to 223 and its subnet mask is 24. So the here example which I have given here is an IP address of class C where the range starts from 192 to 223. You can see the network part address is what? 192.168.1. So it belongs to class C IP address. So the subnet mask of it is 24. Okay. Next, we have class D IP address, which starts from 224 to 239, and class E, which stands from 240 to 255. So in total, we can say your IP address is in the range of 0 to 255. A, B, and C are only used. D and E are mostly not used. Okay. So that is your IP addresses. Next is your static IP addressing, and next is your dynamic IP addressing. So when I talk about IP addresses, there is some addressing mechanism used by IP addresses, and this mechanism is static and dynamic. So when I talk about static IP, this is nothing but a permanent number which is assigned to the all the hosts in the network. Exactly contrast to it is your dynamic IP, wherein your temporary IP addresses are assigned to the all the hosts in the network. In static IP, it is assigned manually by your network administrator, wherein in dynamic IP, it is assigned by a server, which is nothing but your DHCP server, which automatically assigns IP addresses. Okay. Next, static IP addresses, the name itself tells its meaning. So you cannot change it once it is assigned to your computer. Wherein dynamic IP addressing, you can keep changing. So the changing takes place from the DHCP server. So this changes occurs when your server expires, or you can say when your server or your connection resets. So in that case, you goes for dynamic IP addressing. Static IP is less secure. We know the reason, because you cannot change it. Once somebody knows your static IP, they can easily log into your system. Okay, so it is less secure. Dynamic IP is very much secure because every time when any connection takes place with the anonymous computers, they will see a new IP addressing coming up. So they will never know what is your actual one. So it is very much secure. Static IPs are used for your dedicated servers that can be like your FTP, your mail servers, your virtual private networks. When if I talk about dynamic IP, it is used for connecting to large anonymous devices over the internet and communicating them. So that is your static IP and dynamic IP. Next, we have seen IPv4 and IPv6. So the internet protocol, there are two versions, that is V4 and V6. V6 we have come up with only the reason because V4 was not fulfilling the need of the generating IP addresses to all the computers. Need was increasing day by day. So to overcome the need and to overcome the problem of shortage of IP addresses in V4, we have come up with IPv6. V4 is nothing but Internet Protocol version 4, Internet Protocol version 6. Okay. So when I talk about IPv4, it is nothing but a 32-bit IP address. If I talk about IPv6, it is nothing but 128-bit IP address. Okay. IPv4 is a numeric addressing. You can see in the diagram, there is numeric addressing, that is 192.168.225.25. Okay. When I talk about IPv6, it is alphanumeric. Okay. It is combination of numeric as well as alphabets. You can see it is there over your screens. When I talk about IPv4, it is binary bits are separated by dots. You can see here again in the diagram. As with in IPv6, it is separated by colon. Okay. IPv4 offers your 12 header fields. IPv6 offers your 8 header fields. Broadcasting is available in IPv4, but it is not available in IPv6. Okay. Checksum is also available in your IPv4, but it is absent in your IPv6. Okay. IPv4 supports something that is called as VLSM, that is variable length subnet mask. So if you want to have any size of your subnet mask, that is possible with your IPv4, but it is not present in your IPv6. Okay. IPv4 uses your ARP protocol, that is nothing but address resolution protocol, whenever it wants to map your MAC addresses, whereas IPv6 uses NDP. NDP stands for Neighbor Discovery Protocol whenever you want to map your IP MAC addresses. Okay. Next is your domain name. So when I talk about domain name system or domain name server, that is your DNS. So it is just like your Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages was the book that we used to refer initially whenever you want to know any contact number of any businesses or organization with respect to the goods or services they used to offer to us. So that same, this it was a Yellow Pages was reference for us. Okay, it was a book for us for referencing. Similarly, over the internet also, whenever we are using any reference, that reference is nothing but a phone book of your internet, that is your DNS. Okay. As we all know that as a humans, we really cannot remember numbers, we can remember names. So DNS actually simplifies your task by not telling you to remember IP addresses, but it tells you that you just remember the domain name, and whatever domain name you type, I'll convert it into the IP addresses. Okay. Because when we talk about our browser, they need IP addresses. With IP addresses only, they can retrieve the information to your browsers, whatever you intend to have an access to. Okay. So DNS does what? It converts your IP addresses, domain names to your IP addresses, and it becomes very easy for them to locate them. So your example is given here. Your domain name is google.com. It has an IP address that is 173.194.77104. So on, we have so many domain name. So domain name is also categorized with what domain it belongs to. Like if I talk about .com, it belongs to a commercial website. If I talk about .org, it belongs to an organization website. If I talk about .gov, it belongs to government website. Similarly, if I talk about .edu, it stands for an educational website. So according to your domains, you are being assigned an IP addresses. Okay. Next is your DNS server. Whenever you are talking about DNS servers, while they are loading a web page, there are few things which are happening in the background. Okay. So what are the few things which are happening, or what are the process that are happening? Okay. So basically there are 4 DNS servers. The very first DNS server is your DNS recursor. So when I talk about DNS recursor, it is nothing but a server which is basically designed to receive the queries from the client machines with the help of the application that is nothing but the browser. So all the client queries will be received through an application, that is your browser, and that will be managed by whom? The DNS recursive. Okay. Second comes is your root name server. So when I talk about root name server, it is basically used for translating your human readable host name into your IP addresses, and then it will index them into the root name server, where it will help you to access the data. Next is your TLD name server. TLD stands for top level domain server. So basically when I talk about top level domain, it is nothing but the data is stored at the top level with the prefix of your country name, then the you can say your domain names, that is your .org, .com. Okay, so it is a top level data where it is the data is being divided in terms of your country prefix and the domains which it belongs to, that is your TLD, top level domain server. Okay. Last is your authoritative name server. So authoritative name server is nothing but it is just like a data dictionary wherein all your data will be stored into it, and at any point of time you want to have an access to them, so you need to know the actual naming convention of it. That is, either you should know the domain name or either you should know the country prefix for accessing the data. Okay. Next, we are moving to MAC address. So MAC address is nothing but they are also called as your hardware addresses. Okay. When you talk about MAC addresses in the laptops, they are termed as burned in addresses. Okay. Why they are called as burned in? Because in in laptops, your MAC addresses are burned into your Ethernet chips. That is why they are called as burned in addresses. Okay. So in short, we can say MAC address is your physical address, your hardware address, that is a unique identifier to your computers, and that is nothing but done with the help of a NIC card, that is your network interface controller card. Okay. It is nothing but your 48-bit or 64-bit address, okay, which is associated with your network adapters. So MAC address, it's known as your media access control. Just like your IP addresses are used for logical addressing, MAC addresses are used for your physical addressing. Okay, so that is your MAC address. It is a physical address, it is a hardware address, it is also called as burn-in address that uniquely identifies your machine. So in the diagram, you can say the physical address of my computer is FC-3F-DB-5B-EC-65. So whenever you want to know your physical address, then you have to type the command in your command prompt, that is ipconfig/all. So once you type this, you will get in the MAC address of your computer. Next is your TCP and UDP ports. Okay. Whenever in networking we talk about port, it is nothing but a communication endpoint where the communication takes place between two, that is nothing but your sender and receiver. So when I talk about TCP UDP, we have already covered before. TCP is nothing but a connection oriented protocols which runs on your TCP IP protocol suite. And when we talk about connection oriented protocol, this protocol assures you that all the packet which is sent or received will be acknowledged. Okay. In contrast to this, UDP is something which is connectionless protocol, which neither builds a connection initially or neither assures you that any packet which is being sent has to be acknowledged or will be acknowledged. So that is your connectionless protocol. So there are some ports which are used by these protocols. Okay. So when I talk about TCP, where the communication has to be end to end, so the FTP uses port number 2021, SSH use port number 22, Telnet use port number 23, SMTP use port number 25, DNS uses port number 53, HTTP uses port number 80, POP3, that is for mail purpose, it uses port number 110, NTP use port number 123, IMAP4 use port number 143, HTTPS uses port number 443. Okay. Next, when I talk about UDP ports, which is a connectionless, so it doesn't deal with any connection. So the port number for UDP protocols which are running over UDP IP protocol suite is DNS having port number 53, boot TPS, or you can say DHCP. DHCP is easy to remember. It uses port number 67. TFTP use port number 69 and SMMP use port number 161. So Initially, you have to give an overview of what is TCP/IP, and then you have to write the port numbers, what protocols are running on the port number over TCP and UDP. Next comes is your application layer protocols. So when I talk about application layer protocols, it is nothing but all the applications which are running over this protocol, the communication which is taking place over this protocol, that is your application layer protocol. So in IoT, all your applications which are running will always take place over your application layer protocol. So application layer protocols also have some agreed set of rules or regulation before they start communicating or before they are starting conversation. So they are already told before that whenever you are starting any communication, then you have to make sure that all your messages should be in this format. Your input and output has to be transmitted in this way only. Okay, how you have to handle the authentication, how you have to give the acknowledgement. So everything is already designed in the protocol list. So in application layer, there are set of rules, there are set of protocols which are being designed whenever you're computing between networks. So all the application has to follow that agreed set of protocols before they start transmitting or communicating with the other devices or computers over the network. So in IoT, all the applications which are running will be running on the application layer protocol. Next is your HTTP and HTTPS. So this is something which we must be always seen into your browsers whenever you are accessing any piece of code over the internet, or whenever you are typing any website. Okay, so you can see either of these two, it is HTTP or HTTPS. Okay, because these are the protocols which are actually responsible for transferring your information. As you know the full form, hypertext transfer protocol. So any information which has to be transferred or exchange between your web servers and your web browsers will be taken care by whom? Your HTTP protocols. So all type of transfer will take place. So that HTTP stands for that it is not secure. It will just simply transmit all the information as it is received. Okay, if the information is received in the plain text, it will be transferred to the plain text only to your servers. Wherein if I talk about HTTPS, the S word makes the entire process secure, which tells that any information which is received in plain text will be converted into encrypted text, and then only it will be sent it to your web servers. So the word S makes a big difference, and it makes sure that all the transaction is a secured one. So when I talk about S, it uses various secure priority protocols which helps to make your communication secure. Okay. So when you talk about HTTP, it uses your port number 80 as we have already seen before. When I talk about HTTPS, it uses port number 443. HTTP is not secure because it just simply sends your data in the plain text. HTTPS is secured because it sends your data into your encrypted form. HTTP works at your application layer, whereas HTTPS works at your transport layer. Why it works on transport layer? Because it secures your all the communication. It secures all your transmission process which takes place from end to end. HTTP encryption is absent, as we can see that in HTTPS encryption is present with the help of your secure socket layers, with the help of your SSL certificates, SSH certificates. So all your encryption takes place, all your security mechanisms are being managed properly in the HTTPS. Wherein HTTPS is absent, it just simply takes the data in plain text and it sends the data. So there was a need of security. That is why they have come up with HTTPS. So where you have to always make sure that whenever you are accessing any piece of code over the internet, you have to first see whether it is secured or not before you type in your ID or password, or before you type in your any confidential information. First check the HTTP header whether it is a PS, it is secured one, or it is absent of security. Okay, so that's done for the day. In the next lecture, we shall move ahead with the next topic.